This tutorial is for 3rd grade, Module 2, Lesson 13a. In this lesson, we're going to use vertical number lines to help us round numbers and weights. The directions say round to the nearest 10 and use the number line to model your thinking. I have the number 32 and I need to round it to the nearest 10. You can see how we've set up our vertical number line. If I'm working with 32, I know that 32 is going to fall between the tens of 30 and 40. So those are the ends of my number line. The next step is to plot your midpoint. Halfway between 30 and 40 is 35. Now we're going to show 32 on our number line. Well, 32 falls between 30 and 35, and this dot shows us where 32 is. Since 32 is below the midpoint of 35, we're going to round it down to 30. So when we round 32 to the nearest 10, our answer is 30. Let's follow the same steps over here. Now I'm rounding the number 36. While 36 is still between 30 and 40, the midpoint between 30 and 40, or halfway, is 35. Now let's show 36 on the number line. Well, 36 would be past 35. Since 36 is above the midpoint, it's going to round up to 40. 36 rounded to the nearest 10 is 40. Here are a couple more examples. Now I'm going to round 62 to the nearest 10. Well, when I count by tens, 62 would fall between 60 and 70. The midpoint between 60 and 70 is 65. Now let's place 62 on that number line. That would fall about here. Since 62 is below the midpoint, 62 would round down to 60. 62 rounded to the nearest 10 is 60. Now I have 98. When I'm counting by tens, 98 would fall between 90 and 100, because 10 more after 90 would give me 100. The midpoint between 90 and 100 is 95. Now let's place 98 on the number line. That would fall roughly about here. Since 98 is above the midpoint, we would round 98 up. And 98 rounded to the nearest 10 is 100. We're going to use the same process when we round weights. The directions say round the weight of each item to the nearest 10 grams and use the number lines to model your thinking. So I have some chips. Its weight is 36 grams. We're going to round it to the nearest 10 grams. So 36 grams would fall between the tens of 30 and 40. The midpoint between 30 and 40 is 35. Now let's show 36 grams on the number line. Be about here. Since 36 falls above the midpoint, we would round 36 up to 40. So when we round 36 grams to the nearest 10, we get 40 grams. Next, I have a box of something, and it weighs 52 grams. We're going to round that to the nearest 10 grams. So 52 grams would fall between 50 grams and 60 grams. The midpoint between 50 and 60 is 55 grams. Now let's place 52 on our number line, about here. Since 52 falls below the midpoint, we will round it down. 52 grams rounded to the nearest 10 grams would be equal to 50 grams. My last problem appears to be a can of sardines, and it weighs 82 grams. We're going to round that to the nearest 10 grams, so 82 grams would fall between 80 grams and 90 grams. The midpoint between 80 and 90 is 85. Let's place 82 grams on the number line, about here. Since 82 grams falls below the midpoint of 85 grams, we'll round it down. 82 grams rounded to the nearest 10 grams is equal to 80 grams. So you can see how the number line can help us to determine whether we round a number up or down.